Hello everyone, my name is Shani and welcome to my YouTube page. So I started this page because I want a place where I can talk about everything motherhood, but more specifically postpartum depression and anxiety. When I was going through the thick of my postpartum depression and anxiety with my son, um, I just realized that there weren't enough platforms where women can feel comfortable connecting with one another about postpartum depression and the real struggles that we go through um, in the early stages of motherhood. And so I wanted to create this page as a safe place where we can talk mom to mom and help each other out through tips and things that the Lord gives me, and just get through this thing together. And so today I'm going to title my video Beautiful Distractions. And so I'm just gonna start with a little story. When I had my son, I was very adamant about breastfeeding. And so in the hospital, they encouraged that. And so they had me latch within an hour. And that went okay. They're not really expected to eat, but it's more of like a skin to skin bonding time. And so that went okay because it was only a couple of seconds. And then I got to my room, and I'm trying to feed him for like a good 24 hours, and he just wasn't really getting much of anything from me. He was latching, but it was so strong. Like, he was such a strong sucker. He would latch incorrectly, and I would latch him incorrectly. But he would latch on so tightly, it would hurt to get him off. And so it wasn't going very well day one. And so by the end of the 24 hours, our nurse came in and offered me some formula for him. And she even said, like, they're going to be so mad that I'm doing this, but he needs to eat. And so she gave him some formula. Well, gave me some formula to give him. And then he slept and he was fine. He stopped crying and fussing and everything like that. So next day, I'm still adamant I'm going to breastfeed him. And so I kept trying. And it was just going the same. And I was just hurting more. My nipples were cracking. At this point, they're bleeding. And so I'm just like, I need a break. And so I gave him some formula. I sent him to the nursery. I'm like, I can't do this, so I need to just lay down and rest. Okay, he came back, and so I tried again. Same thing. And so this is day 2. By the time day 3 went and we were getting discharged, I had made the decision that I was going to exclusively formula feed him. Now, this was kind of a blow because I wanted to formula feed him. And what am I saying? I wanted to breastfeed him. And of course, it's a cheaper option. It's such a great bonding with your child and all the good nutrients and antibodies they get from breastfeeding. So I was really upset about that. And I felt like I failed him at that. But I was just glad that he was also eating at the same time. So I think, I believe that played a part into my postpartum depression, the start of it. So I get home and I'm now exclusively formula feeding. I had to go buy a bunch of formula right away that I didn't anticipate doing. And so I did that. He's eating. He's doing well. Me mentally, just like the first day I got back, I was just sad. And so I talked to my doctor and his pediatrician, and they were like, we're going to just monitor you and see how it goes for the first couple weeks. It could just be what they call baby blues. And so, like, okay. And so as the weeks go on, they progress. Things are getting a little bit worse. I'm starting to cry more. I start having anxiety attacks where I would be, like, hysterically crying, shaking, hyperventilating. I had, like, 5 of those a day. So by that point, it was like, yeah, something is wrong. And so by that point, my doctor and his pediatrician were like, yes, we believe you have postpartum depression. So they were closely watching me. They wanted me to get on some medication, and so that was how that went. So by that point, yes, I did. They were classifying me with postpartum depression, and so my son is eating. He's doing well, except he's having like a poop problem, and they said that's normal with like formula-fed babies. But by that point, I'm like, it's probably happening because I don't know what formula to get him. I didn't anticipate doing this. I was supposed to be breastfeeding and I'm not. And I'm like such a horrible mom. I'm not cut out for this. Like, he would do so much better without me. Like, all those crazy thoughts were going through my head. And so fast forward, to having my daughter. I found out I was pregnant. I was so excited that I would have a second chance at trying to breastfeed. So this time I did all my research. I looked up lactation snacks and like everything that would help your supply. I looked up the best breast pump there is, all these tips and things about breastfeeding. And so she came a little bit early. She was premature. She came at 36 weeks. And so when she would latch in the hospital, her latch was very weak. And so unlike my son, his was very strong, hers was very weak. So I had to supplement with her formula from the jump because she was premature and they wanted to make sure she was eating. And so I had to formula, feed with her for some of it, and then they would latch and I would pump also. And so sorry, I need some water. That was kind of a blow because, another blow, because I'm like, this is deja vu. I had to do this with my son, and now I'm doing it again with her. But I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stay positive. As she gets older, they said that she would latch better. So I'm trying to stay positive. I'm leaving the hospital, still wanting to breastfeed, still trying to latch her when I can, and then supplementing afterward. And so I'm pumping, I'm latching, she's supplementing, I'm doing everything I think I'm supposed to be doing. I'm eating oatmeal, I got my lactation cookies, everything's going good. She started to get a little frustrated with latching, I think because it was just hard for her being premature, and her suck was so weak in the beginning, and so it was just hard. And so by that point, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to exclusively pump. So I'm pumping, and as I'm pumping, I'm like, okay, well, this is still good because she's still getting breast milk nonetheless. So at this point, I'm still not having to buy formula, so I'm like, okay, that's great. And then she's getting all the good nutrients, even though she's not latching onto my breast. And so I was okay with that. Fast forward a couple weeks, I've been at it for a month, and I ended up in the hospital for my heart condition, which is a prolapse in one of my arteries. And so, one of my valves, sorry. And then, so I was in there for about a day, and they were monitoring me, watching me, and my supply dipped a little bit because I didn't have a pump at that time. And so I got home and trying to pump. I was pumping less, having to supplement more. At that point, I'm like, oh my God, it's happening again. Like, well, so, and I'm so tired too. You're sleep deprived. You haven't slept well in a long time. So by this point, I'm just like ready to give up breastfeeding altogether, even the pumping. So I started transitioning to exclusively formula feeding again. And that was kind of hard for me because I was so excited about having a second chance to do it. And so I'm like feeding her, and the first day she did not poop at all, which is not like her for the first month because she was pooping after every feed. And so I know that that was normal because what happened with my son. But again, I'm like, wow, this is like bringing back old feelings that I had overcome. So I'm feeding her, and then I rock her to sleep. She's well fed and she's doing just fine. But me mentally started going back to that place where I'm like, I'm a failure. I cannot believe I did not breastfeed again. Like, people are going to think I'm not cut out for this. I started having thoughts about people thinking that I was less than a mom, like I wasn't capable of simply breastfeeding, that maybe I wasn't cut out for mom life, and that kind of thing. And just that I had failed again. Like, I felt like I really wanted her to have the best start to her life, and I felt like breastfeeding would do that. And so since I couldn't do it again, I just felt so horrible, like I was really depriving her of something, even though she had everything she needed. And so I'm rocking her to sleep, and I'm crying, and the Lord spoke to me, and he was just like, you know, you're using this breastfeeding as an idol to you, and it's something that I've placed my worth in. So I really had to sit back and think about it, like, wow, is that really what I'm doing? And so when you make something an idol, you place your worth in it, and you feel like if you're doing that thing, then you're worth something. But if you're not, then you're worth less. And so that I started to realize that was how I was feeling about breastfeeding. Like I felt like if I wasn't breastfeeding, that I was worthless to my children. Like I couldn't even supply them with good food. So I just realized, wow, that's really what I'm doing. And if I continue to put my worth in breastfeeding, I would have to always go back to breastfeeding in order to feel worthy of being my children's mother. And so even if I would have breastfed for a year, if I found my worth in that and then baby wants to wean, where do I find my worth now? And so I just had to sit and reflect with the Lord and read some scripture and realize that my worth is found in Jesus, and that He made me exactly who I am, that He blessed me with two beautiful children. The word says that the fruit of the womb is Lord's reward to us, reward to us. And so I just realized putting my worth in this thing was taking away from all those beautiful things. I wasn't spending time like having fun cuddling with her, seeing her first smile. Like I wasn't enjoying those things as I should because I was so worked up in having to breastfeed and thinking that if I didn't do this, that I was such a horrible mom, that I was missing the beautiful things of motherhood. Um, and so once I realized that, I started to enjoy having time with my children. Um, I started to even have them playing together and, trying to try getting a toddler and a newborn to play together, right? But I was just enjoying being a mother at that point. Once I had taken the stress off of me of breastfeeding and just putting my faith and hope in Jesus that I am a good mom, I begin to enjoy motherhood. And so I'm hoping that if you're watching this video, this helped you some way, because it can be even more ways than just breastfeeding. It can be and not having a schedule that can make you feel less than a mom, or not being able to get your baby to sleep well, or not being able to clean up the house every day. That can be something that can lead to those thoughts of anxiety and depression. And so I'm hoping that if you watch this, that this would help you in some way, because there's many things in parenting that we can use as idols. Um, like, for instance, let's say not having your baby on a schedule, making you feel less of a mom, and mom shaming yourself. Um, not your baby not sleeping through the night right away. Different things can lead into those thoughts of feeling worthless and like you're not a good mother. So I'm hoping that this would help you to know that you are worthy and that the Lord has blessed you with your children because you are the best mother for them. And that when your child looks at you, they see someone who's amazing, who's their whole entire world. They don't see your shortcomings or things that you did or didn't do. They just see someone that they know they love and that loves them. So I'm hoping that this would help you to find your worth in Jesus, someone who we can always turn to, who fills every void of worthlessness and feeling like a failure. He replaces all those things with joy, and especially joy in motherhood. So I'm hoping that you enjoyed this video and that it helped you in some way. And I hope that you will subscribe to my channel for next week's video. Let's get through this thing together.